What's up, guys? I am here with my FXLRS. I got it jacked up. Harbor Freight jack stand for the win. And I am about ready to attempt something I've never done before. I am looking to install a cam in this bad boy. So wish me luck. My first time doing this. I've done a lot of things on my bike, this bike and my previous bike, my Dyna, but this is the first time I'm tearing apart the cam chest. I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos already, read some instructions and tips, so let's hope this goes through smooth, and then I can get to tuning it with my power vision. So I got the lifters here soaking, been soaking for a couple days now. I think they were already injected with oil when I got them, but for good measure I threw them inside a mason jar and they've been soaking for about 2 days. I got gaskets. I got the tappet lifter guides right here. So these with new gaskets and new bolts. So I've been reading up that probably gonna have to take a torch to these ones and to remove the bolts, just so that the bolts don't snap. I guess that's a thing. So I wanted to be extra cautious there. Of course, I got my assembly lube. I got my bolt cutters, brand new bolt cutters. I didn't have any, so I got some bolt cutters. Should do the job. I got my pushrod tubes and pushrod covers from S&S. They're blacked out, so those will replace these chrome. And let's see, I do got my timing chain little block that basically is going to help me hold the chain while I pop off the sprocket that's in there, so it doesn't go out of time. And then I also got right here my bearing remover tool. Gonna have to look at some instructions on how to use this, but bearing removal tool is brand new inside there. Of course, got a small little oil pan to catch any oil that's gonna drip down from there. Oh, last thing I got was this. So a torch head. So I had one, but it was broken, so I wanted to buy a new one. So basically I'm gonna have to heat up the plastic tappet covers that are inside there, the guides, and so I can basically break them free without risk of breaking the bolts. So wish me luck. All my tools are over here. Got my iPad over there in case I need to watch a video. Bike is jacked up. It's in 6th gear because I read that it's keep it in 6th gear to have the engine turn over easier. I got to remove the spark plugs. Gonna remove the exhaust. Gonna remove the the foot controls. I'm gonna pop off the intake cover. I really like this intake, but I think I'm gonna have to replace it with a different one. I don't have to, but I think from what I've been reading, I guess even though it looks cool, it does rob horsepower. So I'm gonna do probably the S&S teardrop or the S&S stinger. I think that's what it's called. So here we go. Wish me luck. Alrighty, so here I am so far. What I've done is I've removed my Fab 28 exhaust, which is sitting right over there, and I have took off the fork lever. I'm sorry, the brake lever, foot peg, and then obviously had to disconnect my O2 sensors. And then what I did was I loosened up my pushrod tube covers. Just popped off there's just little clips right here. They literally just pop off with a screwdriver. So then what we got to pay attention to is we really got to make sure that this is easily to spin. The bike is in 6th gear right now, and I took out the spark plugs as well. Sorry, I also took out the spark plugs. Super easy to do, 17 millimeter. What is it, a 17 plug? It's a standard spark plug cover. I'm sorry, to 5/8. Standard spark plug tool. So basically, these two are loose right now. Okay. Now the back one, I can't spin yet. So basically, what needs to happen is, because I'm in 6th gear, you just move the engine slightly over as much as it'll go until these are now going to be loose. So basically, the rule of thumb is put it in 6th gear. See, like now this one's tight, so I can't spin that one, so I won't cut that. So basically, the rule of thumb is when you can spin these with your hands, the actual push rod, then they're able to be cut. And it's going to change for each intake and exhaust one as you move the rear wheel. So I'm going to cut that next. So I tried to get away with not taking off the air cleaner, but yeah, my bolt cutters couldn't get to this last one there. So gotta take the air cleaner off, and it's Loctited like hell on there, so I'm having a hard time. But at the end of the day, I just want to take things slowly get this stuff apart. So I was able to cut these ones off. All right, so I was able to get 3 of the 4 push rods out. But this one, my bolt cutter wouldn't fit in there. Another thing is, if you're gonna buy bolt cutters, I would recommend the smaller ones, because I got these small ones. It's pretty tiny. But I feel like the bigger ones I might have had even more trouble. But it's all good. I plan to change this cover out, or this intake out anyways. Yeah, I know I got I'm using one of these, but I know I have the actual socket for it. It's just over in my toolbox. Unfortunately, my toolbox isn't in my garage. It's in my shed. I have a lot of other crap in the garage instead. All right. So, gotta take this out. I would recommend. I mean, because we got this big plastic piece here, I definitely recommend to take it off. Alrighty, so here we go. We got the air cleaner off. I was barely able to get my bolt cutter in there when I took that plastic portion off. I'm hoping I'm gonna be able to get in there to this back bolt with this damn thing on there. Otherwise, I gotta take off this whole assembly. No big deal if I have to. So next up, we're gonna go and pop off the cam chest cover, let the oil drain, and then pop off these guys here. So this is the downside of your Harbor Freight jack, or your lift, because it basically gets stuck where you need your oil pan. So making a little bit of a mess, nothing crazy. So yeah, just make sure you're able to catch this oil best you can. So I'm having a little cleaning up to do, but I'm gonna let this drip out. Kind of have to hold it. I should have put something underneath the pan that just kind of holds it, but the jack is kind of in the way here. But I almost got this off. Basically all I do now is to pop off the final bolt, and then we can start disassembling the inside of the cam chest, as well as these tappet covers. All right, update. Taking a break. Got my son Christian with me now.
4:15 p.m.
Oh, messing with my Apple Watch. All right, so this is where I'm at the moment. So basically, I was able to get the covers off. Next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat these bad boys up right here, these 2 bolts, because just from what I've been reading is that a lot of people unfortunately snap them trying to remove them, so they recommend just to heat them up. I guess you will melt these plastic tappet covers, but I have metal ones to replace, so yeah, that'll be the next step. But right now, just taking a break. just relaxing. Like I said, I'm not rushing this job. Just gonna do it little by little. Take my time, watch videos. You know, make sure I'm not skipping anything or breaking anything or doing anything incorrectly. All right, so I ended up taking a little bit of a gamble, and I went ahead and just wanted to feel how tight it was, and I didn't put much pressure, and both bolts busted loose. So super happy about that. I was gonna heat it up. If I felt it was super tight, I was gonna heat them up, but I got lucky and both of them bolted loose. It could be that my bike only has I think 1,800 miles on it. So, I mean, low mileage, these things haven't really seized their way in there yet. So, got lucky. I'm still going to replace these though with the metal ones that I purchased, just because, you know, I don't want to have to deal with the plastic in there. So, we're about ready to... first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the stock lifters. They're super oily. I'm going to put them right here on this. Slide these bad boys out. So once again, I have the other one sitting in oil at the moment. Get your back close up. Yeah, hopefully this camera's doing all right. This is kind of a wide angle camera. It's not really designed for this type of thing, but it's the only camera I have besides my phone. So I don't want to use my phone because I'm actually using my phone to watch the videos. Right. All right. So those are out. So now we can start removing the cam chain tensioner, and then these bolts here. We can remove the chain. I do have this little guy right here. So this thing is supposed to, so it goes in like that. And this is basically holding these two gears together, and then I can unbolt these. So this thing was like 12 bucks on Amazon. So I think cheaper, like $8. So yeah, definitely get one of those if you're doing this job. Some people, they use an impact, but I didn't want to risk it. Plus, you know, I just figured I'd use this for 12 bucks and use my hand tools. Back at it. Took a couple hours break, had some dinner, put my kids to bed, showered my kids. So now I'm back at it. Basically, next step is to disassemble the cam chain and the cam tensioner, and then we're going to basically slide the full oil pump and cam plate assembly out. Should be pretty straightforward. I got my locker to unbolt these. It's going to be these two here. Once this slides out, it's going to be some bolts behind here, and then this whole assembly will slide out. Alrighty, so I went and took off the chain and sprocket. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to take off the oil pump assembly. Now do not remove these 4 bolts. This is going to basically disassemble the oil pump, and if you take those apart, you will have to retime it, from what I read, or what I saw in a video actually. So instead of having to retime that, let's not worry about those 4. So only take out these 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this whole assembly should slide out. And then we'll get to our cam. Be careful with these bolts once again. There can be some cross-threaded or super tough Loctite, and you do not want to strip these, and you don't want to snap those. So take it easy on removing these ones. All right, I got the cam out, cam plate, and the oil pump out. So one thing you got to just pay attention to is these little gaskets, these little rubber gaskets. So there's one right here, and then there's one down there. So basically the kit comes with replacement ones. So I put those in already. And then there's also a gasket on the back here of the plate. So make sure you have that. So I placed it back on here and make sure it's going on the correct way. So I have to mess with that to make sure I have it on the right way before I install it back. But yeah, so now we are ready to use our tool to pull that bearing out, and then we're going to replace it with this bearing here. And I did take a look at that one with a flashlight. The bearing is definitely different. This one definitely has way more rollers on it, so this is definitely a better bearing, so don't skip this step. Alright, so now I'm going to pull the bearing out. This is a bearing removal tool. Basically, I'm going to screw these in. So what I did was I just kind of tapped this in with a hammer a little bit, and then once that was in behind the bearing, it's like these metal plastic pieces are in there, and then this plate slides on. Just make sure the bigger holes on the bottom when you're removing. Or just make sure these line up. It's these four. There's different tools out there. I can't remember this one. This one, like I literally got this one online for like 60 bucks. Super cheap. Alright, so I put the nut on there. I'm going to use a 9/16 to hold this side. And then you're going to need like a big ass, like an 1.1 or so. But I'm just using this crescent wrench, this giant crescent wrench, and you're basically just going to continue, just keep tightening. It's going to take me a little bit because I got this big ass wrench. And you're just going to basically keep tightening, and as you tighten, it's going to pull that bearing out. And if you go underneath and look, you can kind of see it coming out. So just keep an eye on it until the bearing is pulled all the way. Let me take a look under there. Okay, yep, I see it starting to come. It's gonna take a while for me because I don't have a ratcheting one. So just keep tightening it, and you'll start seeing that bearing underneath start pulling out. Let's see what that looks like underneath there. Oh, it's almost there. A little bit more. Yep. Alright, perfect. So, let's take this off. Let me turn this light on, because it turns off. Alright, so we'll just pop this bad boy off. I need to use it. Alright, so there's the bearing right there. So, there she is. She's on this little plastic, or I guess it's metal, but it's basically on there. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to flip this guy around, and we're going to use the other side of this plate, and we're going to use a different cylinder type thing to actually press the new bearing in. So just to give you an idea of the two different bearings, so these are definitely different. I know some people said they were the same bearing, and people were saying, just swap it, just even though it's the same bearing, still swap it on the newer bikes. Now this is a 2022, so I don't know if the 2023 they changed it or upgraded it, but you can see this one has about, basically it's like double the amount of rollers in there. As you can see, there's little gaps. This one has about double. So yeah, so good thing, make sure you check, make sure you replace the bearing. It's worth it. $60 tool, borrow one. If you're in my area, if you're in San Jose or in the Bay Area, you want to borrow mine, let me know. I'll let you borrow it. But yeah, it's worth it. So now we're going to basically use the same tool we just used, and we're going to press this one in there with the other side of it. Alright, so here we are. I have the plate flipped over. I have a different driver bar, and I have this little plate that goes on top, and then the bearing sits right here. I put assembly lube on the bearing, just basically lubricated the bearing completely. Remember, the lettering on the bearing are going to be facing us, away from the engine. So it's going to be going in like this. Okay, so basically the next step now is to thread this in further, and then you're going to basically let's see, we're going to bolt this one in here. So alright, let me just thread that in. I need both my hands. Alright, so now that I have the tool on there, we basically make sure this is all tightened up. Make sure that it went on there straight, it lined up, and then basically we're just going to tighten this 3/4 head here until the bearing seats. So I guess it's going to tighten up, and we'll fill its seat. So we'll see here. Okay, I think there it's on there now. Alright, I'm going to take a look at it and pop off this plate.
Be careful on this step. I actually pressed the bearing in too far. I had to remove it and repress. As soon as you feel tightness, back off with the wrench. I talk a bit about this later in the video.
So bearing is all pressed back in. It is just seated just a slight amount past the housing, so it just has a small lip on it, which is perfect. The tool that they provide gives you that lip. So now make sure your gaskets are in there, and also make sure, if your bike has it, that you have this oil pump gasket. Make sure the flanges are facing outward like that, and the smooth size is pressed in. So we're basically going to get assembly lube all over the new cam. We're going to put the cam in first, lube it all up, and then we're basically going to have it like this. This is going to sit right here. Cam's going to sit right in there, and then lube it all up, and then we can basically start bolting everything back together. Alright guys, so I got everything back together. After I put the cam in, I pushed the the oil pump plates and cam plate, slid that all in there, made sure that the gaskets on the back side were in place, those rubber grommets, pushed it all in and tightened it down, and then I torqued them all down to spec. So I did run into a little issue with my bearing press. So when I was putting in my bearing, when I put in the bearing, I went in a little too deep. So I felt it get tight, and I think I kind of went a little too far. So when that happened, when I put the cam in, the cam was actually going in too deep, and it was almost like it was rubbing on the inside. I was like, oh shoot, this is not good. And like when I tried to spin the cam freely, it was basically rubbing something. I felt metal to metal contact. So I'm like, all right, something's not right here. So looked a little bit into it, looked at another video, and then sure enough, they said as soon as you feel it get tight, back it off. That basically means that, you know, you've made contact. The tool has made contact, which is let me show you the tip real quick. So right here. So basically this tool, it has a little lip on it. So that little lip has made contact with the bearing has basically made contact in there, and that means it's basically seated. You don't want to go any further, because if you go further, you're pushing the bearing in a little too far back, which means the cam is going to slide a little bit further back. And with that being said, being too far back in, it's going to cause issues. Luckily, I was able to feel it physically rub, so I knew I had to pull the bearing back out, and I pressed it back in. And this time I just kind of went, slower, felt that tightness and backed off. And then I checked it, put the cam in, and it was good. So just a little advice, had to basically do a step over again. During that process, I busted my finger. Basically, I was gushing blood everywhere. It didn't really hurt. It just I hit it, and then I started seeing blood all over the ground through, because it actually tore my glove. So yeah, got it all kind of taped up right here. So that all happened in the last hour or two ago. My stupid light. So that kind of set me back a little bit. However, I just felt everything's torqued down. I just turned the wheel, and everything seems to be moving freely, and everything doesn't seem to be binding anywhere. So I think we're good. I made sure to make sure the two dots were aligned up on my chain when I put it back on. So we should be good there with the cam timing. I'm going to call it a night. It's already past midnight. I'm going to call it a day, clean up a little bit, hopefully get this thing fixed up tomorrow, get it finished. Back at it again. It's a day later. I'm using my iPhone right now. So I'm holding the phone just because I wanted to come in here real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now. I'm just going to basically get the cover on. I kind of want to keep the cover off while I do the push rods, but as you can see, I'm dripping oil because I just threw the lifters in and they were completely soaked in oil, and it's basically dripping down and it's starting to flow out, and my setup is not letting me capture the oil, and it's just making a big mess in my garage. And then I'm going to be turning the engine over, and I want to stop having to clean up all this oil. So I'm going to put the cover on. Everything is torqued down once again. I rechecked that my timings are lined up. So as you can see, my two dots are lined up, as well as the cam top and the bottom shaft are both aligned with the little grooves facing upward. So we're all good there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the gasket on, and I'm going to button this up at least so I can stop leaking oil all over the place. So I do recommend some sort of table to hold your bike on, not just this kind of jack, or at least something that can hopefully capture the oil that's been spilling, because I literally came in this morning and had a oil basically dripping all the way from here to there. So I'm losing engine oil and slowly seeping out, so I'm gonna close it up. All right, so I got it all buttoned up. These are all torqued down in the sequence that the service manual says. So that is all tight. Got a fresh gasket in there. It came with my SNS kit. And then I just slid these bad boys in. So these literally just slide in. So from what I've been reading is that you want these guys to kind of face each other. Those little holes. So see those little holes? So just to kind of help the oil to pump easier, I guess, because the holes are there, so they don't have to circle the lifter. I got that done. So next step is to put the tappet covers on. Tappet cuffs, I should say. They're called cuffs. And then I'm going to call it a night, which are these guys right here. So these are the Star brand. The only reason why I chose these ones, it came with the whole gasket and new bolts, and I was afraid. It's having a hard time focusing in on it. I was afraid the bolts were gonna snap, or not snap, but just stretch out or what have you. So I wanted to use fresh bolts. So this came with fresh bolts and fresh gaskets, whereas the SNS kit didn't, so I would have to buy that separately. So I figured I would just buy a kit that came all in one. Plus they're gold, which doesn't really matter, but
gold.
you see how they have these orientation on there. So pretty straightforward. It's just one bolt. You just put it in right here. They are labeled. So here, this one is for the rear. So this is for the rear. So it'll go there. Just make sure your lifters are obviously lightened up so they slide in. And then the front goes there. All right, guys. So we're at that stage where we need to do the push rods. Lifters are in. Everything's good to go there. These are all torqued down. Really hard to get the torque on these back bolts over here. So you just kind of have to know what that 140 foot or an inch-pounds feels like. So I kind of did the 140 inch-pounds on these. So I kind of felt how hard I had to get them down. And then I did a similar amount to these back ones because I had to get a small wrench back there. All right, so now the next step is to get the covers in. I'm sorry, the push tubes. Sorry, it's been a long day. First thing you do is you need to assemble the SNS sleeves and outer tubes. One thing that you do have to do is you do have to steal your springs from your stock ones. The springs, the kit does not come with springs, and then you have to fully, before you even start like putting it together, fully disassemble them because they're not put on correctly from the box they come in. So you do have to slide this tube out, slide this outer collar off, the washer, it comes with a new washer, and the inner sleeve, and then your spring. So basically there is an assembly method. You have to put them together. Don't believe that just because this is in there, this is on there that type of way. It's not correct. So I'm going to show you how to assemble it right now. Basically, disassemble everything. All right. So first things first is the inner tube, the black collar, the small one. Okay, it goes just like that. Then you do take your old spring, you slide that one in there like that. Then it's gonna be your little washer. It's gonna go like that. And then your inner rubber seal. It's gonna be the fat ones, which the kit comes with. And you might want to look at your original ones just to make sure that they're the right diameter, because there is 3 different sizes in this kit. And then this guy right here is going to slide on like this. Damn, this one's scratched already. Paint's peeling on this one, brand new out the box. I just got 2 of the lifters on there and adjusted. Yeah, they were a pain in the butt. So basically, I didn't really have anything to hold this part up. So I was kind of doing it with my hand, with my fingers. My phone died in the middle of the recording the assembly piece, but I'm not going to show this part on camera because I really have to get the camera in there, and I have to use basically both my hands to hold hold this thing up. I have to hold this part up while I'm actually using 2 wrenches on it. So yeah, but there's plenty of videos out there on how to do this portion. Basically what you're doing is you're gonna get it extended all the way enough until there's barely touching, so there's no more wiggle room, and then you basically rotate it 4 more times. That basically is gonna give you your adjustment. Just make sure your engine's at the top dead center. So these should have been at the bottom, not moving, and then this one should be just barely at that point where they're starting to open and close. So I'm gonna knock out these other 2. I swear it took me probably an hour just to get these 2 in. I figured it out a little bit more after this one, kind of a method on how to hold the lock nut and the adjuster at the same time. So yeah, you're gonna have to finesse that a little bit. And then of course the adjuster nut keeps falling down. Once it falls down, you have to take it out and start over. So that was been the struggle. But I'm gonna get these other two in. Like I said, I would say refer to a different YouTube video if you want to watch them actually do it, which honestly they don't really show it because you're literally extending this little guy out while you're holding this nut from falling, and you're also holding this half so it does, because otherwise it gets too tight and you can't spin it by your hand anymore, so you have to use your wrench. So yeah, it's and then of course hold this up. So it's kind of like a 3-step process. I should have went and I didn't have a rubber band and a paper clip, so I literally looked for a rubber band big enough. I don't have one, so I ended up just doing this by hand, and I got it to work. So yeah, good luck. Back again, another morning, getting this thing dialed up. So where we left off is we were talking about our pushrod tubes. I got those all adjusted. Another thing happened last night that I want to warn you about, or at least, want you to be aware of. So basically what happened was I was adjusting the final pushrod tube, or the pushrod, and I was getting it up into the little groove, and I accidentally knocked the seal, the bottom seal down here. I knocked it into the tappet cover, underneath the tappet cover, and I went to kind of fish it out, and it slipped down into the hole behind the cam chest. Man, I was so upset. Like, literally, I could not get it out. I don't know where it went back there, but it went down there behind there. I literally had to disassemble everything. So I had to re-disassemble these, even though I already had them adjusted. I had to pop these off, even though I had them torqued with Loctite. I had to take the backside out. I had to take off the cuffs again, which those obviously had issues with because I had to make sure those were, seated properly. I had to pull the lifters out. I had to pull the cover off. I had to pull the cam out again, the pump, the timing chain, the adjuster screw, literally everything. I had to redo the whole job again, minus removing the exhaust and intake and the cam and pressing the cam bearing. So man, yeah, I had to do it all again, basically retorque everything, use my tools, get the engine back on time, top dead center. So yeah, that was a big pain in the butt, and it was a stupid, simple mistake I did, that cost me probably 2 hours of time last night. So I was up till about 2 a.m. Getting this thing knocked out, because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna leave this night without getting something accomplished. So I was like, you know what, I've been at it for already a couple hours, and I'm gonna spend the next 2 hours getting everything redone again. And I didn't want to leave the place a mess, so I was like, I'm gonna get where I need to be, pop everything back together. So that's where I'm at now. So basically everything is adjusted, everything is good, engine is on top dead center, everything's timed up correctly, everything's torqued. I just need to get these little guys in there. They you kind of slide this part down and you kind of pop these in. It's kind of a pain. So, take your time on these. Try not to scratch your tube covers here when you put those on. They actually sell a little tool that actually like spreads this open for you. I don't have that, so I'm gonna use a screwdriver. So I already did one of them, so I was able to do one. Basically the job is almost done. I'm super happy to get to this point. I also got my tune from Fuel Moto that actually just came yesterday, so it's perfect timing to get my tune, so that way I can actually flash the bike before I actually fire it up, so I don't have to fire it up with a shitty stock tune right on it. So it'll run, hopefully, after it warms up, it'll run to where it's supposed to be close. And then we'll probably work on the auto tune after that to just kind of fine tune it. But yeah, that's where we're at with it, man. For someone doing this for the first time, definitely a challenge. But I'll tell you this, the second time when I did it again, it was kind of like super quick because I kind of knew everything already. So I was able to pop the whole thing, take it apart, put it back together pretty quick. So a thing that took me all day to do, as I'm like reading instructions, reading torque specs, watching videos, I was able to remember all those steps and then just kind of knock it out quickly. So for somebody who does this, you know, a lot on M8 engines, I mean, they can have a cam done, you know, 2-3 hours tops, you know, if they know what they're doing and they have all the tools to do so. So yeah, let me get everything all buttoned back up. So I'm gonna put the cover back on here, down here. I'm gonna slide these guys in. I'm gonna put the exhaust back on. I'm gonna put the foot control back on. I'm gonna put my spark plugs back in. Don't forget about that. Make sure you get your O2 sensors back plugged in when you plug in your exhaust. And then I'm gonna flash the bike with the tune. I'll show you guys that as well. I did a little screen record on how Dynajet and Fuel Moto does the tune. It's super easy how they provide you the tune. And then I'm gonna clean up this mess. It's oil everywhere. There's oil on my back wheel from turning it. Yeah, so it's been a fun job. At the end of the day, this is fun. It was a fun experience. It's one of those things where I always wanted to tackle on my own. On my previous bike, I paid a shop to do it. It was expensive. It was probably almost a little over $2K to do everything. And that was me providing the cam and everything. So yeah, so I saved myself. Everything here came out to about, with the tuner, everything was under $1,500. And then obviously doing the labor myself, and then buying a couple specialty tools. So that's a lot of cost savings if you are confident enough to try to tackle this job yourself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's make sure this thing's gonna run correctly. Let's make sure I timed it correctly. Let's make sure I adjusted the pushrod tubes correctly, and then we can start saying if this was a good experience or not. But yeah, let's get this wrapped up. All right, guys, that basically wraps up the job. Yeah, about 3 days it took me, a couple hours a day. Some days a little more, just like last night when I ran into that issue where the O-ring fell into the cam chest. Everything is buttoned up, exhaust is put on, it's all tightened. I put the foot peg back on, the brake lever. Cam chest, I put that back on. Intake is all back on. I'm going to be actually replacing this intake with a S&S intake as well. That actually gets here Thursday, so I'll be changing that out in a couple days. Basically, spark plugs are back in. Don't forget to put the spark plugs in. Won't fire it up. O2 sensors are connected. Covers are back on. O2 sensor connected down there. And then also, what I did was I bought just a quart of oil. Just some 20W50. I'm going to do a full oil change soon on it. I just wanted to, that's what I used to soak the lifters in, and then basically the leftover oil I poured into the engine. So it's got probably about a half a quart extra that I threw in there because I most likely lost, I would say, half a quart. So I'll check the oil and everything. I'll fire it up. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do first is since I have the tune for it on my phone and my Power Vision app, I'm just gonna go ahead and flash the tune. So this is a custom tune by Moto Fuel. I basically just told them all the upgrades that I just did, including the exhaust I already had on. I told them that I'm gonna put on a heavy breather intake, or I should say a S&S intake, so that way it's kind of future proof. That's getting here Thursday, so it might run a little different with this one on there. But yeah, man, here's the final moment. I get to fire her up. So give me a moment. I'm gonna put it on the ground because I don't really trust this jack with the engine running. You know what I do need to do? I need to clean the rear tire just because I did have some oil in my hands while I was, turning over the motor. So let me clean the rear wheel up, put it on the ground, clean up the floor a little bit, and then I'll flash it. Let me flash it, and then let's start her. All right, let's get it. All right, fellas, moment of truth.